Let's move our way over to the side so that we can get everybody in. So I'm just going to say a few words, let all the reps introduce. You guys want to introduce yourselves, where you're from? And then we'll get into the details. Yes, and their names again. Owners. So I'm going to go through a whole litany of stuff. Do you want me to go through 2 pages of garbage? And then you can talk, and then we'll have the owners talk.
I screwed up the new joke. No, I'm good.
And then we'll wrap up. All right. We got everybody? I think we're good. Fantastic. And your names are? Shane Miller. Shane Miller.
Chris Knight.
Okay.
From Manitowoc.
Chris Knight.
Chris Knight, yeah.
Okay. So after you're done, you can introduce, when you're done, just introduce Shane Miller and Chris Knight. They're both Tesla owners.
Yes. Alright, so I'm Chris, you're Chris. Right here. Yeah, right.
All right.
Where do you want? I don't want to not put in charge of station by you. Yes, they are. No, it's already there. Yeah. You didn't know that?
File in here.
The cameras are there you go.
We have electricity up there.
Hey, can we set the electricity up there?
We have electricity.
All right. You ready?
It's
All right.
cranked.
All right, we're going to get started. Let me start by thanking everyone for joining us today to kick off our Tesla bill. It just keeps help moving Wisconsin forward. I don't know if you saw today, but we had 60 plus Tesla owners here today driving around the Capitol and giving people rides. We're actually grabbing people out of the rotunda, offering up rides. So it was an exciting morning for a lot of people, a lot of staff. A lot of people got a chance to actually experience the cars firsthand. Let me start by introducing myself and a few of my co-authors, as you can tell up here. I'm State Representative Rob Brooks. I'm from the 60th Assembly District. I represent the northern half of Ozaukee County and the eastern half of Washington County. I'm also joined by my Senate lead, Chris Kapinga from the 33rd District. Chris represents Dodge and Waukesha and Washington counties as well, and all of my co-authors. So at this point, if any of you co-authors want to introduce yourself, and then we'll get into the meat of the bill. Chris, you want to kick us off here? I'll step out of the way.
Yeah, sure. So Chris Kapinga, Senate from our 33rd Senate District, and just want to thank the representative for kind of kicking this off. And we got, go ahead.
Paul Tittle, I cover a good portion of Manitowoc and Calumet counties.
Representative Mary Falkowski. I'm in the 35th Assembly District, Lincoln, Langlade, Marathon, and Oneida and Shawano counties.
Jesse Kramer, 59th Assembly District, Washington, Fond du Lac, Sheboygan, and Calumet counties.
I'm Representative Jimmy Boy Edming. I represent the 87th, which is Rusk, Sawyer, Taylor, 5 townships in Marathon and 1 in Clark. Thank you, Representative Brooks.
Thank you. Shannon?
The guy way in the back. My name is Shannon Zimmerman. I'm state representative for District 30. That holds Hudson, River Falls, and the Minnesota area of Wisconsin.
Oh, jump in. Oh, sorry, John.
I'm John Mocco from the Green Bay area and the 88th.
All right, thank you. So you can tell we started circulating the bill internally within the building earlier or later last week and this week. This is not all of our co-authors, but we offer it up for those that wanted to co-author. The co-sponsorship memo will be going out later today, and we're hopefully going to pick up a lot more co-sponsors today from both sides of the aisle. Okay. Today, Wisconsin has a unique opportunity to embrace innovation, deliver economic benefits, and quite frankly, meet consumer needs by passing a one-line bill. It's not often that we can do that and say in this building that we have a one-line bill that is responsive to our constituents here in the state of Wisconsin. The bill is simply designed to provide consumers in Wisconsin with more choices, better service, while simultaneously realizing the way in which we purchase products here in Wisconsin. Who heard of Amazon 25 years ago? They have revolutionized the way we purchase products. And when we think back, you can buy a Tesla right now through your iPhone. But when you think about that, iPhones came about less than 10 years ago, or about 10 years ago. So we need to, here in Wisconsin, start looking at the way we do business and reform the way we do business. That's what this bill does. Our world and economy are ever changing, and this bill simply amends state law that was created over 40 plus years ago to allow an American manufacturer, and I want to emphasize that, an American manufacturer to have increased opportunities here in Wisconsin to grow its customer base and its service base. It's a time for Wisconsin to join 23 other states, including our neighbors in Illinois, Indiana, and Minnesota, and update our state statutes to reflect the changing marketplace. Again, our bill is only one sentence. It simply states that a manufacturer of electric vehicles may have a dealership here in the state and sell directly. Pretty simple concept. Our bill again allows for consumer choice, drives Wisconsin's economy, and it also protects the laws that were passed 40 years ago for current auto dealers. To me, the question is easy. Why should the government stand in the way of consumers' choices and dictate what cars they can buy and where they can buy them from? We should openly welcome the ability to see an American product thrive within our own state. The same way Apple revolutionized cell phones, Tesla is transforming the automobile industry. Tesla is the first successful automobile manufacturing company in more than 50 years. Last year, Tesla sold 80,000 cars in the U.S. I know that sounds like a huge number, and at some point there will be a lot of fear-mongering that Tesla's trying to run dealerships out of business. That is simply not the case. When you look at 80,000 Teslas sold and 17 million cars sold in the United States. So this is not a threat to traditional manufacturer-dealer operations. We just want to give Wisconsin citizens an opportunity to buy what we think is an emerging market. So right now there's about 500 Tesla owners, and we had about 60 of them here today. There's an additional 1,500 reservations for the Model 3 where people have put down $1,000. And it was interesting today when we were waiting outside for our test ride, I had people from the State Capitol Police coming up going, I've never been in one of these cars. 2 people said they had deposits down to buy cars. We have staff throughout the building saying, we put $1,000 down to reserve our car, but we've never sat in a car. That tells you kind of what market we're dealing with here. Tesla right now has 4 has 8 stations here, supercharged stations here in the state. They're looking to expand that. If our bill passes, they're looking at building 4 sales/service model stores here in the state. That's multi-million-dollar stores, each employing between 25 and 60 people. That's a big deal for the state of Wisconsin, especially when you look at 1,500 cars on order right now. Okay, Tesla is among the safest cars out there. Their new SUV has been rated by the feds as the safest SUV they've ever tested. Their Model S, same thing. Obviously, they're safe, and emissions are 0 emissions. So we're talking about bringing a new model to the state of Wisconsin, 0 emissions, free market. I don't know how we can possibly stand in the way of that. People will have questions about how are Teslas different than other traditional dealers. These cars are traveling computers. They can be updated and downloaded remotely. Their service techs will see you at a site once we have them here, or they can come out to your house, your business. It's a totally different service model than a traditional dealership. The repairs are minimal on these cars compared to other cars. That's part of the reason we're pushing the bill. So when we talk about an emerging market, I want to talk about Volvo. They're not going to have combustible engines after 2019. GM is to roll out 4 new electric vehicles in 2019. European countries are already trending away from combustible engines. By 2025, all new cars sold in Norway will be electric. By 2040, all new cars are proposed to be sold in Great Britain and France. So this is not just a small emerging market. This is an international market. So I think that's enough for me. So Senator Capping, and then we have a couple owners to talk, and then we'll go from there.
Well, thank you, Representative. I don't have a lot to add. I would just say if you as a reporter have not driven one of these, you really need to get in it and test it. It's crazy. It's crazy fast. It's crazy fun. And you see the owners here. It's really neat to see. I was joking earlier with some of them. I said, it's almost like this may be the new Sturgis for Tesla. They're going to come to Madison once a year and have this test drive set. And it's really neat to do. And it's really neat to see how enthusiastic they are. But as you know, my office always looks for free market type situations. And this is a perfect example of a kind of a newer type of technology, I would say, in a new way of doing business, similar to like the Apple stores, where you're not going to have 700 vehicles on a lot. You've got a situation, you go in and you look at the vehicle, maybe there's 1 or 2 there, and you go online, you look at the features and options, and it's a little bit different way of doing business. And when we see that Wisconsin law actually is holding back, literally we're the only thing between 4 new stores being put in, and you're talking about hundreds of jobs, and you're talking about some decent tax revenue too. Let's not forget that the revenues from this will be taxed in the state of Wisconsin that we're now losing now, and you've got Wisconsinites having to drive down to Illinois. I'm sure they're not going to be happy about it because they're getting a lot of Wisconsin revenue right now, and I think it's time for us to get that back. So we're going to remove that barrier in a very simple sentence that puts in the legislation a fix for this free market issue that we've got to get taken care of. So that's what I wanted to add to this. And again, great job, Representative. Thank you for leading this. And so I've got 2 owners here. Do we want to questions to them, or you want to say anything? Or, so we've got Chris, and we've got where's Shane? Shane back here. He's kind of hiding.
Go ahead.
You don't have to if you don't want to.
No,
But there are a couple owners who came out, so if you have a comment.
I would just like to say thanks for having us here. We really appreciate you guys working on the bill. Really looking forward to having Tesla more openly being able to sell in Wisconsin. So really excited that this is moving through.
Good. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, my name is Chris Knight from Green Bay. How's it going? You know what I had to go to Highland Park in Chicago to buy a Tesla. Like, what's the hell about? I want to buy a Tesla here in Wisconsin. And my next Tesla will be in 2018 next year. I'm going to buy that one in Wisconsin. But the real issue is that when this bill passes, what will happen is that I'm paying a high fee to have a Ranger come up and service my Tesla. Now, it doesn't break down very often. In fact, it hasn't broken down in about a year now, at least. But having a Wisconsin-based dealerships or the service stores will cut my costs, my cost as a consumer significantly. So my money will stay in Wisconsin when it's being serviced or repaired, rather than having to drive down 3-4 hours down to Chicago and back, and that ruins a day. Whereas having it serviced in Wisconsin, that's a big deal. That will allow more consumers in Wisconsin to buy more Teslas in Wisconsin.
Great. Oh, thank you, guys. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. I guess one of the things we want to point out is we talked about expanding the service stations here and how widespread this is getting to be. I know this is a very small map, but this map here shows destination spots where you can get supercharged destination, a lot of hotels. This map is old, so it's almost double this. So it's important to know that over the next few years, you're going to be able to pull up almost any place and get these cars supercharged. Do you guys want to talk about how quickly your cars now charge? I don't know what model each of you have.
About 40 minutes to a full charge if it's down.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have the same model. We both have Model S's. His is slightly quicker than mine. But I don't hold that against him very much.
You have the P package then.
Yes.
If you haven't driven the P package, it's a rocket.
The
It is awesome.
85D is really good too, let me tell you. But
Well, I think yours is bad.
so if you drive, so to your point, if we drive across country, we can stop. The car tells us where all the superchargers are. We stop at the supercharger, charge for 15, 20 minutes. They're all around bathrooms and restaurants and stuff. With our cars, it's included in the price of the vehicle, so it's free for us to plug in, charge, and we can get on our way in about 15, 20 minutes. So yeah, it's really super convenient.
At this point, we'll open up to questions of us, the owners.
Yeah, I just
And-
want to clarify
Sorry,
something too. The 4 stores mentioned, that was more rhetorical. If there were 4 stores, Tesla has plans to open stores here, but they haven't said any numbers yet. So I just
Right.
want to clarify that for the press.
Right? Questions?
So what's the actual language that prohibits this from happening now? Does anybody know why it was in there in the first place?
Yeah.
You want to go
Yeah,
ahead?
well, I can speak to it because I used to have a dealership, so I can speak to that. I used to have a franchise dealership. It was in motorcycles, but it's all under the same law. So if you think about the old model of dealerships, we build a dealership, we put intense capital investment into our dealership, into our inventory, into our stores. That what happened is back, I think it was in the 1980s, some of the manufacturers talked about going direct. And when the dealership folks just invested a significant amount of capital into their store, it put them at risk. So there were some laws put in place to protect those dealer owners. So now it's a different situation because Tesla, number one, is a startup, and they are building their own stores, so you don't have that risk in place. So this law wouldn't put anybody else at risk who currently has the brick and mortar built.
How does Harley get around that then? Aren't they selling directly?
I don't know.
No. No.
Yeah.
They do not.
I think they're all owned through a franchise model.
So why in your bill only allow for electric vehicles to have this ability to sell directly? Why not electric?
Because what we didn't want to do was we didn't want to compromise the dealers who are in place right now and they have laws that protect their investments. We didn't feel like it would be appropriate to go down the road of putting them at risk.
And we don't want to prolong this. I mean, there is a pent-up demand. When you talk to these 1,500 owners that are truly excited, you know, they're waiting. Like, when am I getting my letter that I'm getting my car?
I'm one of the 1,500.
Oh, there you go.
I'm one of the 1,500. I will be buying a very expensive car next year, which is unusual for me. I don't buy a car very often. I would love to buy it in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
It'd be really nice to not drive down to Pleasant Prairie for that.
So we really don't want to hold this up. When we're looking at a couple thousand owners, it would be nice if we could add supercharged stations. We could add the service ability here in Wisconsin instead of sending that money to Illinois or Minnesota or our surrounding states. So it just makes sense not to slow track this and try and get it done without tearing down that relationship that's been built up over decades, 40 plus years ago.
Any other questions?
Have you spoken to the governor? Where does he stand on this bill?
I have not spoken to the governor yet on this bill. So as you can tell, we tried rolling it out today, getting the message out, getting as many people down here so that they understand the impact, that it's not just a handful of owners, it's a lot of owners, and it's an emerging market. I think we've done a good job about that. doing that, and then hopefully we're going to create a firestorm of momentum here that's going to move this along. The governor has never stood in the way of innovation. We just did that with Foxconn. I can't see him standing in the way of this.
Any other questions? All right, great.
Okay,
Thanks
thank you very
everyone for
much.
coming.
Hey, Chris.
Good job.
If any of the media wants to take a ride, I can take them.
And if anybody from the media wants to actually take a ride, we have owners here that will do that for you. Nope, that's fine.